Welcome to HAZCOM training, also known as Right to Know. The HAZCOM standard includes 5 sections which we will be going over today as it relates to the Genesee County Parks. The written program, training, materials inventory, labeling, and the SDS sheet itself. The written program addresses the person responsible for the SDS management, labeling, the SDS itself and its 16 sections, access to the SDSs, training, and other related issues to the HAZCOM standard, including confined space entry, contractors, and piping. The Genesee County Parks has gone to an online SDS management software program called SDS Binderworks, which uses both a mobile app and a website to access the information. The mobile app sheet here shows you how to go about downloading and updating the mobile app. Start by downloading the app from either the Apple Store or Google Play to your mobile device. Log in using the credentials indicated here, username staff, password summer 2020. Then you need to download the inventory for the first time, and for this you need to be connected to a Wi-Fi network, and you need to plan a little bit of time, as this process could take 15 to 20 minutes to download the over 500 SDS sheets that are in the Genesee County Parks inventory. And then periodically, when you're connected to a Wi-Fi network, you need to go into the app and click the update button in the upper right hand corner, and it will update any SDSs that are new or have changed since the last time you updated them. To access the SDS Binderworks program on the website, you will go to the login page with the web address shown here. The credentials are the same. Username is staff, password is summer 2020. You can also get to this login landing page by just doing a web search for SDS Binderworks and clicking on the login option. Once you are logged in, this is the page you will see for the Genesee County Parks SDS inventory. On this page, you can search by product keyword or the SDS Binderworks number, manufacturer. You can sort the products by product group, and down in the inventory itself you'll see that it's new since the last time you logged in, and also the SDS Binderworks number, which is unique to this program and appears on all printed labels, the product name and the manufacturer, the product group, the date that the SDS was last updated, and these 3 symbols, the first one, the explanation point, allows you to print a secondary label. The little PDF symbol in the middle allows you to download an actual PDF of the SDS. And the hourglass, the spyglass symbol on the right allows you to look at this product in the SDS Binderworks format, which just gives you the basics. Training All employees need to be trained on this standard, and that training needs to be done prior to starting work, and it needs to talk about where the written hazard communication can be found, SDSs, how do you identify spills, and specific procedures to follow to protect employees from the hazards of the chemical. The material inventory for the Genesee County Parks is held on the SDS Binderworks program. However, we will have printed binders in each facility starting this summer. Those binders will be printed in an SDS Binderworks format, and there will be additional training on how to use those once they are brought into the facilities. In the material inventory are chemical classifications including health hazards, physical hazards, and environmental hazards. Environmental hazard categories are not regulated by MIOSHA, but are regulated instead by EGLE, which is the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, also known as the DEQ, or Department of Environmental Quality for us older folks. The physical hazards include explosives, flammable, and gases under pressure. You have flammable liquids and solids, self-reactive chemicals, pyrophoric liquids, solids, and gases, which are products that will self-ignite at temperatures below 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Self-heating chemicals, which will heat up at temperatures below 130 degrees Fahrenheit, but not necessarily ignite. Oxidizing liquids, solids, corrosives to metals, or combustible dusts. Labeling is an important part of the HAZCOM standard. All product containers are required to be labeled. The labeling requirements require the following elements: pictograms, signal words, hazard statements, precautionary statements, product identification, and supplier or manufacturer identification. Shipping labels are now required to comply with the new globally harmonized system standard, which is the same as the SDSs, and have all the same requirements on the shipping labels, including the pictograms, the signal words, supplier identification, precautionary statements, etc. Labeling pictograms are shown below. There are only 9, 8 of which are regulated by MIOSHA. The ones to the left are health hazards. The ones to the right are physical hazards. And the one in the middle is the environmental hazard pictogram, which again is regulated by EGLE. The pictograms are used to identify specific hazards related to each chemical. The toxicity pictograms are shown here. The skull and crossbones is the more severe pictogram, and the explanation point is the less severe pictogram. Skin corrosion and the carcinogen or target organ toxicity, aspiration hazard, The human pictogram with a little starburst in the middle typically shows that the product affects organs in the body. The explosive pictogram is a physical hazard, as well as the flammable pictogram. Corrosive to metal, as you will note, is the same pictogram as corrosive to skin, shown previously under the health hazards pictograms. Gases under pressure, and the oxidizer pictogram. Signal words are required on all labels to show the general severity of the hazard. There are only two signal words that appear on labels: danger, which is the more severe hazard, or warning, which is the less severe hazard. It is worth noting that some chemicals do not have signal words on their label because they are not dangerous enough to require one. The hazard statement has specific information relating to the hazard of the product, and quite often it will include things like skin irritation, may cause cancer, eye irritation, etc. The precautionary statement gives general information that is needed to work with the product, including the type of personal protective equipment to be worn, immediate first aid that needs to be administered if you are to spill the product on yourself, and also storage information. Labeling requires identification of the product, including the name of the product and supplier or manufacturer information. Please do not allow any improperly labeled products to remain in your work area, but instead notify your supervisor and have them removed and disposed of properly. Other information you may find on the label includes such things as the color of the product, the physical state, whether it's a solid, a gas, or a liquid, the route of exposure, which is helpful to know whether you need to ingest the product for it to be harmful or whether it will be absorbed through your skin, and any other hazard prevention or emergency response instructions. Secondary container labels that will now be printed out of our SDS Binderworks program and will be specific for each product include the pictogram, the product identifier, the signal word, the hazard statement, the precautionary statement, the supplier identification, a QR code and SDS number that are unique to the SDS Binderworks program. The added benefit here is that if you have a smartphone with a camera, you can scan the QR code, and even if you don't have the SDS Binderworks app on your phone, the QR code will immediately take you to a PDF of the product so that you can get all the information you need to deal with an accidental spill or an exposure. And the SDS number is also down on the lower left-hand corner. This number is unique to the Binderworks program and can help you find the product within the app, the online program, or the printed binder. Secondary container labels, as I have stated, can be printed out of our SDS Binderworks program for all products. The labels are fully compliant with the HAZCOM standard. We use Avery labels that are self-adhesive and chemical resistant. We have labels designed for quart bottles as well as 5-gallon pails. the QR code that I've talked about, and the unique SDS Binderworks identifier number. The SDS sheets themselves used to be called MSDS sheets, and now they're called SDS sheets, safety data sheets. They have 16 consistent sections that are in the same order and provide the same information for every product manufactured. And these sheets have to be accessible to employees during their time at work. The safety data sheet includes all of the same information found on the label, including the hazard pictogram, signal words, the hazard statement, precautionary statements, and hazardous ingredients. The sections of the SDS are in order, starting with identification of the product, hazard identification, including pictograms, signal words, hazard statement, precautionary statement, and hazardous ingredients. Ingredients is section 3. Section 4 is of specific interest to employees because this section provides for first aid, including immediate first aid necessary, symptoms or effects of exposure to the product, and whether or not you need further medical care beyond the immediate first aid. Section 5 is firefighting measures, and these are typically used by firefighters to handle a fire involving the chemical. Section 6 is accidental release measures, which specifically address personal protective equipment required for cleanup, procedures for cleanup, and is there a difference in our response for a small spill versus a large spill? Section 7 involves handling and storage of the product. Section 8 is again a section that is specifically of interest to employees on a daily basis because this section provides for what personal protective equipment is required to work with the product. Section 9, the physical and chemical properties, which can be useful to employees to properly identify the chemical, including the smell of the chemical, whether it's a liquid, gas, or solid, and what its flash point is and whether it's flammable or not. Section 10 is stability and reactivity. This is of interest to employees because it lets you know whether the chemical is stable or unstable under normal room temperatures. Section 11 is the toxicological information, and that's where we find out how the chemical gets into our body through the mouth or through dermal exposure, absorption through the skin, etc. And also whether it has an immediate or a longer term effect from exposure. Section 12, 13, 14, and 15 show here are included on the SDS in order to meet the global harmonized standard, but these sections are regulated by, in Michigan, again, Eagle. Section 16 has any additional information pertinent to the chemical. Required posters to be posted in each work location are on the left, the SDS workplace locations and who's responsible for maintaining the SDSs, and on the right is a list of any newer revised SDSs since the last time the poster was put up. Federal resources can be found on the OSHA website, shown here, and include such things as fact sheets, updates to OSHA briefs, and quick cards including labeling, safety data sheets, pictograms that can be printed out and carried with you for immediate viewing. My OSHA resources can be found at the Michigan MyOSHA website. And for questions relating to any of this information, you can go to the Michigan Gov MyOSHA website here. Thank you for taking the time to learn about the HAZCOM standard and how the Genesee County Parks is working every day to keep its employees safe and well informed.